Good evening, everybody. So, no YouTube live streaming today. Instead, I'll do a little bit over here on Instagram. And I'm streaming at the moment with my phone, and I will have a look if the quality is better so that I can save the live stream and upload it on YouTube later. I have to find a position where you will be able to see everything. At the moment on my table is the Primaris Phobos Lieutenant, and I'm painting him up for Raven Guard, and I'm using quite a similar technique to my Black Phalanx Black, but with a little twist to it. I haven't recorded a tutorial on this yet, but I plan to do this soon. So as you can hopefully see on the top of the model where I've focused the painting before, I have put some big flat highlights with Homogon purple, and I have painted the shadows with Incubi Darkness. That leg over here is already finished. You can see that other one here only with a black primer. I'm keeping my highlights very flat and big because I don't want that painted super high reflective non-metallic metalish finish to the armor. I want something that absorbs light and reflects on the whole armor panels, so to say. But I want that slight color transition in a warm upper side and cold shadows, so to say. I have to rearrange my desk a little bit. So I hope everyone can see quite well. I also have let's go over here. So let's get a bit of fresh paint onto the palette. As said before, Incubi Darkness for the shadows. I will show a few of my kitbash projects somewhere later, but for now I'm just sitting down, painting, enjoying an hour of hobbying. Sadly, the live streaming on YouTube still doesn't work, don't know why. I tried with another software too, but again I have no control of the camera, so possibly this will be the way my future live streams will go. Over the phone like this. So far over here quality is quite good. So again, as you can see on top of the miniature, we have the, I have to move around because I can't see the miniature. Could see it through my phone, but I don't want to paint like that. Okay. You see on that back leg here all the reflection points that are there only due to the black primer. And what I do, I simply paint them with purple. Just like that. And similar to painting non-metallic metal, I always choose the a few main views of the model. Like this would be one main view where I fill in all the highlights. Then I would turn it around to something like over here and do the same, because I don't want that reflective look, but a rather matte finish that suits Raven God much better. I keep my highlights quite big. Okay, it seems as soon as I go over the miniature with my fingers, the focus switches. Usually would this be a regular marine like the Rivas I have painted before, I wouldn't be that neat. But as he is a kind of centerpiece of the army, I give him a bit more attention. This actually is a super cheap Citadel starter brush from Warhammer Conquest. these aren't necessarily bad or good brushes, but regarding what you want to do with it, some of them are okay. And in my career I have had cheap brushes that are quite good, and I had quite expensive brushes that are totally shit. Yeah, would I want to achieve a more reflective way, I would start at a point. I would draw almost white lines and then glaze to from the bigger areas to those lines. But as I want a real dark matte finish like on that leg here, I keep my highlights quite big. I'm only mapping out the main areas, and I'm not even really neat about that. The trick is to refine those areas later just a little bit, and then hope that your washes and glazing will do the rest. So too, usually one would paint blue on top of the miniature instead of below into the shadows, but in this case I don't. Tried this the first time when I painted those 30-minute Black Templars in the style of Paul Bonner and Frank Frazetta, and especially Frank Frazetta uses purple to highlight some areas, especially the lighter areas. And I found in this case where I want that really flat finish to it, it works really well. And the purple translates grey later. At least it should. So I don't see much of the comments, but I hope I can answer questions, and I hope that the quality is good. So I now might mix some Ulthorn Grey into the Hormgaunt. Team Merits asks how I choose the initial reflections. That's quite easy. When you prime your model with Chaos Black spray or any other slightly reflective spray and hold the model into the light, you can directly see the highest areas on the model that are reflective. For example, over here, that line, it's only light. If I turn it around, it moves. So I simply choose from which angle I want to look at the model, like this, and then I paint along these lines, thus slightly transforming the areas where the light would go. You have to be quite careful when you do non-metallic metal that is shiny, because the where you choose your reflection points will highly influence how the model looks later. But in this case, where I only use it as a kind of underlighting, it's not necessary to get it 100% right. You can see it down here. Here the main areas are mapped out, so to say. It's still, if I would hold the model like this, I would paint all that area. Yeah, shame about YouTube, but I think if I would go live on YouTube, I have not much control over my camera, and I think at the moment this setup here is quite okay. Let's give us a bit of black. Okay. No, that was too early. So I have mapped out the big light area. So now I'll go with a little bit of edge highlighting. I added a bit of white, also on gray in my case, to the mix, and as you can see, it starts to pool here. That means that there's too much water in the mix. So this is simple edge highlighting. I have to get a bit more paint. Yeah, we'll of course do more of these of my tutorial videos. The live streams were never meant to replace those, of course. I'm quite happy that the zoom works too. Oh, that was fine. As fine as Mondays could be. No. as before, I don't have to, or don't want to be too neat. Still a bit more as I would be if this would be a line model. Just picking out a few major lines. Oops. Like that. Okay, now it's time for cleanup. Get a little bit more blue down there. So that's roughly the main edge highlights in that area. Could go over here. And I probably should here we go. Yep. Okay, now comes the fun part, or one of the fun parts. Glazing all these areas with Abaddon black to get a neat satin, slightly satin finish. And the paint is quite thin, so that with the that I can define with my brush stroke where it ends, where most of the pigment will settle. And it's almost like a wash, so that those edge highlights I placed before are like a border. Hey Johnny, everything fine? I have to wait till each layer is dry, but well, this is nothing special or nothing new. It's simple glazing. Yeah, the last time I tried to stream on YouTube said my channel wasn't allowed to stream, and to stream with mobile devices, as is the only option I have right now, I would need 1,000 subscribers. So I got me my 1,000+ subscribers, but YouTube still says I can't stream. Split screen with the famous mist lag. Pushed the wrong button, huh? So out of a quite rough area where I have only mapped out the basic big highlights, I have now made a rather neat surface with just a few glazes with evident black. Chances high that you will go too dark. So leave every area that you go over to dry properly, and try to leave the most light point without a layer of color, and then glaze into the shadow. Instagram said you requested to do a split screen video thing over here. So now this is set up, there's still a wet spot. Thank you. So now comes another trick that I often use. I'll do a kind of hybrid technique of glazing and washing with more Frank Brown. Go. And I want my paint really fast, really thin. I haven't used a hairdryer in a long time. Usually I work around a miniature, so once I'm finished one go over it, and the other areas are already dry. Okay, so not only does the brown pool into the recesses and thus gives us a bit more definition to the either purely black armor, but it also adds another layer of continuous paint, so to say, and it adds a slight, really light brown hue, thus blending together the dark and purple areas even more. And I try to do it in a way that most of the pigment flows into the recesses. I don't know if you, oh yeah, you can see it. Yeah, I would never have come to that technique if I hadn't tried to copy various artists, because what you learn when you look for miniature painting and non-metallic metal and stuff like that you paint blue on top and brown from below, and this is kind of reverse. And yeah, usually if you would tell someone that you will get a nice highlighted black armor when going with purple highlights, I don't think that anyone would believe you. So now I'm doing a few edges and scratches with Dawnstone. get a few details back. This tiny piece of rebar here is constantly messing up my brushwork. Hey Charlie, my man, how are you? So what I avoid here is drawing that horizontal line, because I don't want that reflective non-metallic effect. But I can have something similar if I place a few scratches and chipping in those areas and do my edge highlight a bit more in those areas. Have a nice Monday, Johnny. So with the regular reivers, I did most of the edge highlighting with dry brushing and the chipping with a sponge. And on this model I do a little bit of dry brushing, not much. Technically there is no paint on that brush. As you can see, it's really dry paint from a few days ago, but it's still enough to get the edges, as you can see, or highlight details like the tiny skull and swords and stuff like that. Yeah, makeup applicator is nice too. I grabbed a bit of blister foam and rolled it into a plastic straw, and then you can, if there's too much dry paint on top, you can just make it fresh again by ripping it off. And you can vary if you use bigger straws, of course. Okay, last but not least, there is a thin layer of acrylic shade on all this, applied after the edge highlight and chipping, to get a little bit more depth. Just wetting the surface. It's not that the acrylic pools overly much. It's more like a glaze. Oh, that's quite close, but quality is still fine. What I see here. So depending where the light goes, you see the edges of the armor still, and you can see the purple highlighted area, and you see the hint of blue in the dark corners too. Oops, sorry for that. Oh, that's close. Damn. That's maximum. Yeah, that's it. So I have so far not done much on the worm spat conversions. I'm again in the kind of a mood where I like painting more than kit bashing. Don't know why that is exactly. Maybe because I have found a way that suits my style and my ability to paint nice looking models, so I don't have to think too much about composition and stuff like that. And I wanted to record a better quality video of the kit bashing process nonetheless. I think I have most of the areas covered here. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, I find that too, that I'm getting better with each model. Sometimes I forget how I did achieve certain end products, and sometimes it's just the application of different paints in the wrong order. Like when do I apply the wash? Do I do the Agrex Earth shade at the end? Do I do go in the middle of the painting process? And of course, with that one, I'm taking my time too, because I want this model to look good. It often helps me to look at what other painters do and how they paint, and sometimes you get into a routine that isn't really good. Sound foundation with color, yeah, that's always helpful. And once you know what color does and where to place it, it's simply painting by numbers. As I've shown before with the model, if you just turn the model into so that you have the money shot, so to say, like this one. The only thing I did is I just painted the highlights that reflected from the black underpainting with purple. Did the rest with the blue. More precision, yeah, that's probably the case. Yeah. Most of the time I'm quite impatient, so I rush everything and I just slap on paint and then blend everything with dry brushing and stuff. Yeah, and that painterly style, I have acquired that over the last half a year, I think. Maybe the foundation to that was in my usual painting technique too, but I have more and more looked into classical paintings and stuff like that to see how these effects are done in 2D and then try to apply them to the 3D model. I'm not only talking to you, Charlie. I even said hello to people a few times. Hard to believe, you know. Yeah, I love the red grass palette. I have used a few different self-made palettes in the past with different baking paper and stuff, and the red grass it's just made exactly for that. The paper, the sponge. It's like I have one. I have two wet palettes now. One for the weekend when I'm at home with my girlfriend, and it keeps the paint wet for 2 weeks almost. It's Monday, so I will greet people. As said, I only greeted a few, let's say 2 or 3 people out of the. Oh, you use regular parchment paper, yeah? Then maybe there's a brand out there that has the same quality as the parchment the red grass palette comes with, but not over here. Yeah, I think it depends on how wet you want your paint, how fast you want your pigments to flow. The red grass doesn't let through too much water, except you overfill the sponge. Where do we go? Oh, sorry. The cool thing about these purple highlighting things is that as soon as you add a little bit of gray, the purple instantly transforms to gray too. When at these black Templars, let's see where the one. Where's the one I did with that technique? Like over here, all the shiny areas you see here. That it's a huge purple area. It's painted exactly the same way as the Phobos Lieutenant right now, with the addition of gray and white in the areas that are really light to add these high reflective zones, so to say. You can see even here on the white I used purple to give it a bit more warmth. So it's really cool. I would highly recommend to try that at some point. That Dark Angel has the same purple in the areas of the highlights. Don't know if one can see it. Then just glazed over with green. Where were we? Okay, now glazing back the black. There already was with Agrex Earthshade on that helmet, but it wasn't dark enough for my liking. So yeah. And I now basically go around the model doing that on all the different areas. And maybe you noticed that I picked out the highlights with gray on that area of the helmet first. I didn't really think about it. The pro about that is that it gives again these kind of borders to my glaze later. The contra is that you will glaze with black over the gray and it will be much darker and you will lose contrast. So I have to go over these areas again. And as you may be able to see now, the black doesn't really cover over the blue and the purple, but it will get a little darker when it's dry. So don't put too much paint down in one go. Just do one overhaul, and when the whole thing's dry, so the battery of my phone is falling low and I'm quite done painting for today nonetheless. So I hope you enjoyed this little lesson. I will try to download this live stream onto my tablet and then upload it to YouTube, and I hope the quality is better then. Yeah, so then guys, another thing, as we are in close-up, the edge highlights on that sword are simply done by dry brushing with the same brush I used before, that one here, that has not really much paint in the bristles, but enough to catch on the edges like here. So that's enough for now. I wish everyone a wonderful Monday. Stay tuned. Be excellent to each other. Charlie, see you soon in the live stream, hopefully. And you might or might not see this live stream on YouTube soon. See you later.